Welcome in, everyone, and thank you for listening to the 259th ever episode of the Missouri Sports Podcast, brought to you by 106 Apparel and recording from the MSP studio in beautiful Springfield, Missouri. I'm one of your hosts, Cameron Albert, alongside my good friend and fellow Mizzou fan, Kyle DeVries. How you doing today, Kyle?
Doing great, Cameron. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Anything new going on with you recently?
Yes. We had a child since the last time I've been here.
Wow.
So he is 5 days old now. So life has entered a new chapter for me, but it's been good.
What's been your favorite part so far?
Oh, I don't know. Just, at this point, it's like it's just this organism, you know?
Yeah.
So like it's cute. And, you know, it's my child and stuff like that, but it doesn't have much of a personality yet or anything like that. So, you know, just keeping it alive, you know, is really nice and satisfying. But I don't know. I would say, honestly, the entire, like, hospital experience was pretty long. Didn't sleep much. It was a little rough, but it was awesome, honestly, just watching my wife be amazing and, like, birth a literal child and all the nurses and stuff were just incredible. And so that was a really cool experience, kind of just witnessing all of that, just being along for the ride. And yeah, it's been pretty cool.
Yeah, that, when Olivia was born, that was like something that will stick with me forever. It was just like this process happening in front of me, and everybody has their role and everybody knows what they're doing, and they were giving me stuff to do. And yeah, really cool.
Yeah.
Well, we've got some new stuff around here too, Kyle. I got new glasses.
Yeah, you look incredible.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You look like you've been getting plenty of sleep. So
I've been trying.
Yeah. Are you catching up now at this point?
Getting a little better every day. Getting a little routine down.
Well, the way things are going for us, Andrew will probably start sleeping through the night before Olivia does. Because we're not to that point yet, and she'll be 2 at the end of September.
That's rough.
So yeah.
They're all
a
little different.
Let us know in the comments, how do you get your child to sleep through the night? I'm all ears at this point. I'll take any suggestions other than, I'll take, if you know the right combination of drugs, we'll go that route too.
She just wants to stay up and do activities or what?
I don't know. I think she has lots of dreams and bad dreams sometimes. She'll wake up saying, talking about Lion King or colors and numbers and whatever she learned that day, wherever we went, she'll wake up talking about it. So I think she's just an active dreamer. Kyle, Mizzou plays football 1 week from right now.
You just gave me like the little butterflies in my tummy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a big deal.
I'm so excited, man.
Everybody's been putting out their predictions and everything. I feel like people are doing that early. I almost said I feel like we're late to that, but it feels like it's early and earlier every year. People are trying to fill that summer content.
Oh, people were doing that in like April.
I know. I don't really understand it. I just feel like you're just begging to be wrong. I mean, we're going to be wrong on a lot of stuff anyway.
Yeah, we're going to nail it though, right?
Yeah, we waited until the last minute to gather as much information as possible to hopefully make some kind of educated guess at how this season's going to go. And yeah, so we're going to preview the entire Mizzou football season, give our predictions, and before we do all of that, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, leave us a review wherever you listen to us, and of course you can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/Missouri Sports Pod. I do have a little basketball note. Sorry, gotta get this basketball news in here.
Don't be apologizing for that.
It's exciting stuff though, and Mizzou basketball recruiting is at a level of fun and excitement. We had this level of fun and excitement for like one day when the 2017 recruiting class got assembled.
And that was fun.
That was very fun. But this seems like it's maybe actually sustainable.
This feels healthier.
Yes. And so, yeah, the news this past week is 5-star big man Jayden Quaintance is going to be visiting Mizzou on September 21st. 6'9", 230-pound post player, originally from Cleveland, now playing at Word of God Christian Academy in North Carolina. He was also originally in the 2025 recruiting class and reclassified to 2024. and he already has 2 crystal ball predictions or future casts, depending on who you look at, for Mizzou to land him.
I mean, yeah, it's wild. I mean, this is like how these random, maybe unranked players just kind of surface out of nowhere, and it's like, oh, Missouri's interested in this like 2-star shooting guard from South Carolina or something. You like never heard of him.
Yeah.
This is a 5-star, like top 10 player in the class that it's like, oh, by the way, Missouri's interested in this guy. He's probably going to commit soon. And
yeah, we're in it with Kentucky.
Like, what?
Yeah.
This is nuts.
Yeah.
I feel like this is the kind of prospect you have to normally, historically, really for anybody, but especially Missouri, be putting in years and years of work to be able to even have a shot at landing somebody like this.
Well, it sounds like Coach Gates, when he was at Cleveland State, heard about this kid playing locally in Cleveland when he was younger, and kind of had his eye on him and had made contact, and obviously has a lot of connections still in Cleveland. So that's obviously there's a connection there somewhere, and he went to academy now, and the reclassifying is another aspect of this that's kind of insane, because he will be 17 his freshman year of college and not eligible for the NBA, like the Jonte Porter situation, where he couldn't have been a one and done even if he wanted to, because he wouldn't have been old enough. So same situation here for Jayden Quaintance. And yeah, I forgot to mention 5-star player. And he's
a monster.
I watched some of his film. And it's hard because it didn't seem like he was being pushed a whole lot by opposing defenses, but he finishes at the rim with ease, just effortlessly, gets up and dunks everything, runs the floor well, soft hands, and yeah, still just 16 years old and just kind of dominating. I did watch one game. I watched some highlights from one game where his team was playing against Overtime Elite, like that kind of in between college and pro team, and they were playing more defense against his team than some of those other games that I saw, and that was a little bit more challenging for everybody. Like, they kind of got blown out in that game, but that's a much more established, older group he was going up against.
Yeah, it's like a semi-professional team almost.
Yeah, basically. So, yeah, that's super exciting. And I just can't get over the fact that this is seemingly how things are going to go for the foreseeable future. Missouri's sitting with the number 3 class in the recruiting rankings right now. And if things held, comparing their ratings right now to past years, they'd be right around like 20th or so in the final year rankings for last year and the year before. If they landed him, they'd be top 10 in any of the past 10 years, basically.
Easily,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know we're just talking a little bit of recruiting here. I don't want to get too ahead of myself here, but I mean, this is the kind of stuff that makes you think that maybe this is wishful thinking, but Dennis Gates is not going to have to go somewhere else to achieve what he wants to do. And he's proving that he can do it at Missouri, and he can land anybody, and hopefully we'll be able to get anywhere we want to go on the court. So I don't know.
I feel like that's kind of been, that was the attitude like around the Quinn Snyder, Mike Anderson eras, where it was like, you get the right guy in here, Mizzou basketball can be right there, not quite a blue blood, but like the second tier of program.
Yeah, you may not have to go to a Kentucky or something like that to win a national championship or to land the number 5 player in the country consistently or something like that.
And then it felt like, though, obviously Kim Anderson, Frank Haith, and it was just like, wait, who are we? Is this delusional thinking now? Are we so far past that actually being the reality? We saw like a taste of it under Konzo, and this feels like still early in the process, but it definitely feels like you're exactly right, that just got to keep stacking these recruiting classes, and the way that he's able to pull transfers and JUCO guys on top of traditional recruiting. Gets me excited.
No, you're getting the butterflies.
Yeah, definitely. He is also visiting Kentucky on October 20th. So I say, let me look at
they're not a threat.
Let me look at the Mizzou football schedule here. September 21st, he's visiting Mizzou. Hopefully that's right after we beat Kansas State.
Yeah.
And then Kentucky he visits on the 20th, and Mizzou football is at Kentucky on the 14th. So the football team has an opportunity to make it exciting when he visits both places. All right. That's a perfect transition into football. And I realized when we covered the offense and defense, we forgot about the special teams.
Unbelievable.
And, we've got one of the best special teamers in the country in Harrison Mevis, so we got to talk about him.
That's true. And also, Cameron, did you know that Missouri has a punting battle?
I've heard that, actually.
Coach Drinkwitz brings that up in pretty much any press conference or even like SEC media days. It was brought up like multiple times. Like, it's a big deal.
If nobody asks about it, he's like, you guys forgetting about anything?
It's like everyone wants to hear about the quarterback competition. Yeah. It's like punting is what I want to talk about.
Well, do you have any insight on the punting competition?
Nope. And I wish you wouldn't have asked because I don't.
You brought it up.
I'm sorry. You're right.
We need somebody who can kick it far with a little bit of hang time.
We're never going to have to punt.
That's true.
We don't need a punter.
Yeah.
Just go for it.
What am I thinking about?
Whenever you're playing like NCAA 14 or something, and let's say we're playing against each other.
Mm-hmm.
I'm scared whenever you're going for it on fourth down.
True.
You're confident. You know.
If you're punting, at least you're getting the ball back.
I do not like it when you're going for it on fourth down. So
that's true in real life.
I say don't punt.
4th and 2, 4th and 1, the opposing team's going for it.
I'm terrified.
Give me the safer option of just getting the ball back.
It's the best way to just break the other team's will.
True. So forget about punters was our conclusion. Place kickers, though, still important.
We need that.
Yeah. Harrison Mevis. I have a fun little stat here for you. The Mizzou career record for field goals made in a career is currently held by Andrew Baggett with a grand total of 66 field goal makes in his career on 90 attempts. Harrison Mevis is sitting at 62 makes currently in only 73 attempts.
I was going to say, I feel like his percentage is probably a lot better than that.
Yeah. So there's no reason to ask if you think he's going to break the record. Harrison Mevis will most likely, barring disaster, he's going to break the record. Only needs 4 field goal makes to tie it. 5 gives him the record. So that's pretty cool. Field goals made in one season. Grant Russell has made 26 field goals in one season. Harrison Mevis 2 years ago made 23. So that's kind of an interesting
one. A lot of struggles in the red zone.
Yeah, that's true.
Got to figure out how to get touchdowns.
That's one of those things where you don't necessarily want him to break that record, maybe.
Yeah.
What do you think? Is he gonna get 26 or more? Is he gonna tie it? Is he gonna break the record? He had 23 makes 2 years ago, and I believe 22 last year.
Sure. Yeah.
You're gonna give him 27?
Let's give it to him.
Wow, I'm writing that down. Kyle predicts 27. I'm with you. Yeah, he breaks the record. Something that doesn't get talked about as much with kickers is points, career points. The leader all time for Mizzou career points is Jeff Wolfert. You know when he played?
Like the 60s?
Oh, Kyle, you're going to get flamed for it.
Yeah.
He was the kicker on the Chase Daniel,
God,
Jeremy Macklin teams. That's okay.
Who am I thinking of? You want to name some players in the 60s? You just throw out a few names.
I know that kicker that you're thinking of from the 60s. No.
Okay, yeah.
Jeff Wolfert, career points, 362. That's field goals count as 3, extra points count as 1. Harrison Mevis is at 288 career points. Last year he had 99. So if he does that again, he's breaking that record too. We sign him up for that. Also, Harrison Mevis needs one 50-yard or more make to be at the top of the Mizzou career record with 7. He's tied right now for number 1 with 6. Needs one more to break it. Does he make a 50-plus yarder this year?
Of course he does. That's all he does.
So basically, at the end of this year, it's looking like Harrison Mevis, best kicker in Mizzou history.
Yeah.
I mean, we kind of think that maybe already just from the vibes alone, but he's going to have the stats to prove it.
He's probably going to get drafted.
Maybe. Only other thing that I wanted to ask you about special teams is, you think Luther Burden's going to be returning punts again this year?
I hope not, honestly.
I hope not.
Look at Luther Burden go!
Oh, we need him back there for that.
It depends on how bad our offense is, because he honestly would just he was almost more reliable.
That's true.
Running punts back.
That's true.
I kind of feel like it's
put him back there.
It's just such, I don't know, it kind of scares me. It's just a dangerous job.
Maybe someone like Jamal Roberts can step into that role.
Yeah, I feel like typically the punt returner is somebody who's not as important on the team as somebody like Luther Burden.
But sometimes when you got a guy that can
you just do it
like that,
I guess.
It's only a sophomore. Yeah, maybe we see a younger backup running back or wide receiver back there. But I wouldn't mind at all. I think it gets a little overblown, like the injury concern when you have a marquee player back there. I'm remembering like Deebo Samuel just destroying Missouri and being like the only reason South Carolina won a game against us a few years ago.
Deebo Samuel was like incredible though.
Yeah.
Luther Burden could be really good.
Yeah.
But Deebo Samuel was probably one of the best like special teams players ever.
Yeah, he was special. Let's see here. So that's special teams. We don't know who's going to be punting the ball. Harrison Mevis is going to go down as the greatest ever. Now, let's get into this season preview. Now, are there any, when you're thinking about this upcoming season, the obvious storylines are there at quarterback, Luther Burden, the question mark at defensive end, defensive line in general, perhaps. Is there any other like more under the radar storylines that you're paying attention to? One that came to mind for me is like, I feel like we have definitely just penciled in, everybody has penciled in Mookie Cooper at that wide receiver 3. And obviously I hope that he embraces that and is just really comes into his own this year and is a valuable contributor. But just because him and Theo Weiss are a little bit unknown there, I'm wondering if by the end of the year, are we like, well, actually, this guy that we had slated at wide receiver 4 or 5, commanded targets in a way that we didn't expect. That's one thing that I'm kind of thinking of that is a little bit more unknown than maybe we're given credit.
Yeah, I think I'd like to see how they use Mekhi Miller too. Mm-hmm. I think he's just a guy that they're going to want to get on the field, and it'll be interesting to see how they use him, especially if Luther Burden's going to be playing in the slot primarily. But I'd say maybe it just positionally as an underrated thing I'm watching is maybe just tight end, because I think they've really talked up some of these young guys like Jordan Harris and Brett Norfleet, and traditionally you're just never putting freshman tight ends out there, especially somebody like Jordan Harris where he hasn't played football that long. Like they didn't even know what position he was going to play for a while. That's literally never a guy I'm thinking you're going to rely on for the first even 2 years. But so, there's a little bit of desperation, but also it sounds like those guys are playing really well. So I think that'll be kind of watching those young guys and see if they're able to make an impact at all this season, because we need somebody.
And then one update since we talked about the defense, in the scrimmages and stuff, it seems like Darius Robinson is going to be on the outside of the offensive or defensive line.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I don't know. It makes me a little bit nervous just because I know that's not his most natural position, but he's super talented. I know he can do it. But I think everybody talks about the Chris Jones example for the Kansas City Chiefs, and he's obviously naturally kind of a defensive tackle, but they've played him on the outside some in the past, and he just doesn't do it as well. And he's one of the best defensive tackles in the league, but it's just a different position.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's the NFL versus college, so maybe it's a little bit easier to play cross-positionally when the competition isn't as good. But I don't know. It makes me a little bit nervous just knowing that he could probably be elite at his natural position. But if it does allow for maybe there be a little bit more balance, then maybe it's worth it.
It makes me think that his production specifically might be a little bit more matchup dependent than it would have been if he's on the interior, where he would more likely that he would dominate more often from the interior. Whereas I feel like perhaps it could be a situation where he like feasts against the inferior opponents and is more just okay against better competition.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's really get into the schedule here. 1 week from right now, Missouri Tigers will be playing South Dakota in the season opener. And I figured how we'll kind of structure this is for each team, I'll give you a little bit of rundown of the main points of their little, this season's biography for them. And then you give me your thoughts on how Missouri matches up and stuff, and then we'll make picks. So South Dakota, 3 wins last year. They've got a little bit of a pass rush, not much of an offense. Missouri's defense should be able to make plays. My question to you is, obviously we think Tigers win big here. My question to you is, how many quarterbacks do we see from Missouri in this game?
First of all, do you like playing just a kind of a nobody team the first game of the season? I think it's kind of bittersweet.
I agree with that. And I think I've said it before, but seeing some of the SEC schools, like Alabama specifically, that was one thing that jumped out to me about how they make their schedule, is they have a big game week 1, and they put this
neutral site or something.
Some marquee matchup. And then they put this FCS game like week 10. Just this absolute cupcake towards the end of the season, like before the Auburn game or something, seems like what they like to do.
Just use a week to rest the starters before the end of the season or something, basically.
Yeah. So my thoughts on that for Mizzou actually is I'd be okay. Ditch the FCS opponent altogether. Tack Kansas on last game of the year every year.
Last game of the year.
Last game of the year every year in Kansas City every year.
Yeah.
If you have to. If you have to compromise or something.
Seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know, it's like, it is bittersweet because football's back, and part of what's so fun about the first week is just seeing the new faces and seeing the uniforms, the guys in the uniforms again, just whatever.
Yeah.
Just feeling like football's back.
Those first images of it actually happening.
Yes, and just somebody has to score, somebody has to touch the ball, who's it going to be kind of stuff. And so it's kind of fun to just focus on like specific personnel stuff that we've been wondering about all off season and not have to truly worry about, are we going to win this game?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it would probably be a little bit more exciting if we were playing somebody better, but I think it's fun to just kind of get comfortable playing again and just blow somebody out. But I mean, this is a game I don't like to overreact necessarily to like one game, because it's anything can happen in a 60-minute game. But at the same time, if this is not a game that you don't just dominate in every facet of the game, I'm a little bit worried.
Mm-hmm.
But to go back to your question that you asked me like 20 minutes ago, I definitely think absolute minimum we see 2 quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
I think Brady Cook and Sam Horn will both play 100%. And I don't really know how they're going to do it. I don't know if it'll be like Brady gets the first half, Horn gets the second half, or if it'll be more. I kind of think they should at least get a whole quarter maybe to themselves so they can kind of get in the groove. But it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I kind of like that idea. Let me go ahead and predict that Sam Horn gets, or not Sam Horn. Let me predict that Jake Garcia is the 3rd quarterback to enter the game, and it's at the very end.
Yeah,
for not very long at all. I wouldn't be surprised to see. Here's maybe a prediction of how I think it might go. Brady Cook's the starter. It's all going to be dependent on what he does. I think if he comes out and like the offense scores a touchdown on their first 3 drives of the game, and into the second quarter, it's just no issues whatsoever. He looks good. Then you just switch to Sam Horn for almost the rest of the game. Jake Garcia comes in at the very end. If
I would like that.
That would be like perfect, I think.
Best case scenario.
Yeah. I think if Brady Cook, if the offense is kind of struggling a little bit, then I think the coaching staff will go with Brady for maybe like 3 quarters, and then Sam Horn gets the 4th quarter. And then depending on that might influence what happens in Middle Tennessee, in the Middle Tennessee game. So I don't really want that to happen. Obviously, we don't want the offense to struggle. And if there was going to be anything go wrong in this matchup with South Dakota, I think it would be the offense isn't doing it's not as effortless for the offense as we would like it to be.
Yeah. I mean, that's what the offense looked like all season last year. They were just laboring for every yard, every completion was so difficult. It looked like everything we were doing was just stuck in the mud, and we just cannot look like that. We have to look superior athletes at every level.
We need to be seeing plays in this game that you can imagine working against Florida, Kentucky, South Carolina, because that was something that jumped out to us last year against the FCS team. Yeah, it was like, this won't fly in the SEC
for sure.
You're doing stuff that you can do because you have better athletes in this matchup.
Yeah,
and you don't want to be in that place. Yeah,
yeah. I think honestly, one of the biggest things I want to see is just the offensive line like dominating. I want to see a good push from the O line.
Yeah, and I want to see like 4 different running backs get a few carries.
Yeah, but I think this is gonna be a W.
Oh yeah, easy win. Mark it down. Big win. Need the offense to look good. Some of these picks will get a little bit harder soon. So week 2, we host Middle Tennessee. And last year, Middle Tennessee was 8-5, 4-4 in Conference United States of America. Their head coach is in his 18th year with the program.
Wow,
that's kind of insane.
So he's beat Missouri before.
Yeah, exactly. That was the first thing I thought of too.
He knows how to do it.
He was. Were we at that game?
I know. Oh. I wasn't, at least.
Maybe I don't know. That was a rough one.
Was that our homecoming game that year?
I think so.
God, that's brutal.
Yeah, and it was like
it was a really high scoring
game.
Just no defense.
Yeah. Oof.
That Barry Odom defense.
Yeah. A little bit about Middle Tennessee. Last year, their offense struggled at times. They have a undersized offensive line, even just for Conference USA, not even compared to SEC. But they bring a lot of experience back on the offensive line. They've got a good running back in Frank Peasant. He had over 700 yards and 9 touchdowns last year. They lose their top 3 wide receivers from last year. They bring back quarterback Nick Battiato. He's okay, but not anything special, in my opinion. He throws a lot of interceptions. That's good for us. Defense allowed 277 yards or more in all but 2 games last year. But they had 20 total interceptions as a defense.
So high risk, high reward.
Yeah, potentially. And they would definitely not have 8 wins if it weren't for all those turnovers. They did get a defensive end from Oregon. They lost one of their better secondary players to UCF. They do have another quarterback who was previously at Michigan and then went the JUCO route and now is at Middle Tennessee. But I think they're going to go with the returning player, Nick Vattiato. Any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a little bit more... I mean, this could be a slightly tough matchup, and I still expect Missouri to win by 2 or 3 touchdowns, and they should. But, yeah, Middle Tennessee, I mean, they're kind of on the same level as like Louisiana Tech, who we played last year. In fact, I think Middle Tennessee beat them last year. But ultimately, Missouri's got to take advantage, and I think this will be kind of a good game to kind of ramp up for Kansas State, which is in week 3, where it's like, you're challenging yourself. It's not an FCS team, but hopefully, you're able to just kind of move on from this game quickly and get ready for the next week. But I'm excited to see the secondary go against the offense. I think that they might have a chance to feast a little bit, get some turnovers and stuff against Middle Tennessee State. I definitely don't think that offense really scares you too much, especially with losing all their wide receivers.
Yeah.
I think the secondary could really go to town.
Yeah, I could see this being one of those games where like the defense, Missouri's defense does everything we want them to, but then there's a couple like big play touchdowns. There's like, would have been better if that didn't happen, but
that's basically exactly how Louisiana Tech game went
true.
Last year. Was we dominated most of the game. Offense had some rough moments, and the defense gave up a couple of huge plays and stuff. But for 95% of the time, they were enforcing their will.
And this Middle Tennessee defense should not scare anybody. Yeah. And this should be a game. Is another one of those where it's like we should know a little bit more about the offense here if they score early and often and are not settling for field goals.
And I think same game plan. I think you play two quarterbacks no matter how the game's going.
Yeah.
I mean, because you don't know what quarterback is going to give you the chance to win the best. So I think even if we go down 7-0 to start the game off, or whatever, you're playing two quarterbacks to see how they respond.
Yeah, I agree with you there. We're predicting a win there, though. Missouri starts the season 2-0 and then hosts Kansas State.
That's a big one.
Yeah, this is a huge game. Obviously, got destroyed in Manhattan last year. That was a weird game. One of the worst games I've ever watched.
Pouring down
twice.
Rain.
Yeah. The lightning delay.
I think Kansas State was a heck of a lot better than people thought, too. Yeah. Kansas State ended up being really, really good last year.
Won the Big 12.
Won the Big 12. They went 10-4. Finished as number 16 team in the country. Honestly, I think they were better than that. They played Alabama in the Sugar Bowl. They didn't win, but anytime you're playing Alabama in a major bowl game, you had a great year.
Yeah, and they're starting the season ranked this year. And they're just so annoying because they're just so fundamentally sound in every aspect of the game.
Yeah.
And that's so frustrating to play against because...
And a lot of senior... Like, they have a lot of experience. They're kind of that build that Missouri should be kind of striving for sometimes. Missouri's getting the recruits that they maybe don't need to kind of look towards those juniors and seniors every single year, but Kansas State is doing that where they are heavily relying on these older, like grown men to, to play on the offensive line and that kind of stuff. That's really tough to go against when you're 18, 19 years old.
They have an excellent offensive line, and that's like the core of their offense is that offensive line that allows them to be almost perfectly balanced. Last year, they almost ran exactly the same number of pass plays as run plays, almost a perfect 50-50 split. Now, a lot of that rushing last year depended on not only Deuce Vaughn, who is now a Cowboy, but also Adrian Martinez ran the ball a lot. And so he actually didn't play the entire season, was kind of dinged up towards the end of the season. But with those two guys gone, that will change the offense a little bit. They bring in Will Howard, who's been in the program his entire career, and he is very much more of the statue in the pocket passer at 6'5", 235. In 7 games last year, he had 15 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. So I think honestly, I was listening to a Kansas State podcast a couple weeks ago, and they're kind of going all in on this Kansas State offense. They're talking about now passing records at Kansas State are a little bit different than passing records elsewhere, including Mizzou. But they're talking about this offense breaking records this year in the passing game specifically.
Okay.
So I think they're being a little overzealous.
They got a little main character syndrome, maybe?
Maybe. And they're feeling good about last year's performance.
As they should.
But, they're replacing some important pieces.
Yeah. Yeah, they're returning at least 3 of their offensive linemen from last year. They're gonna be good. There's no way around that. But honestly, Deuce Vaughn was one of the most productive running backs, like college running backs, I've seen ever.
Yeah.
He was...
Especially, bar none, but especially at his size.
Yes.
Insane.
Oh, yeah. He's actually like 5'5". It looks like a child running around out there, but he's incredible. He's so talented. And I'm thinking that there's no way around the offensive line. They're going to be good, but there's no way around losing Deuce Vaughn either. And I just don't think you can replace him. And he was kind of what made their offense so incredibly dangerous. So, yeah, they'll still be good, but anytime you lose a player like Deuce Vaughn, it's incredibly difficult to replace that.
On defense, they did lose first-round draft pick defensive lineman Felix Uzoma. You ever heard of him?
Yeah, I have.
You're a fan of him.
You only attempted half his name.
That's true.
Yeah, he was a first-round pick, plays for the Chiefs now, and yeah, he was an incredible pass rusher. Great defensive end, and it'll be nice to not have to play against him again.
They return 8 starters on offense, 5 on defense. So there's definitely been some turnover there. They've brought in some transfers to shore things up. But really, you can't, at this point, they've got their system established. You can't expect them to do anything other than plug in guys who are going to be well coached, fundamentally sound, and they're not going to beat themselves. They're not going to make too many mistakes. What we have to hope for, I think, is for them to be vanilla enough on offense that our defense is able to slow them down. And on offense, we have to be able to make big plays and not settle for field goals.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see who's playing quarterback for this game. And I don't know, man. I guess I'll just go into it. And maybe let me know if I'm just being a little emotional based on how we played last year against them, because I think I'm a little bit emotionally damaged from what I witnessed. Yeah. And it was like we were playing the 85 Bears. Yeah. They played an absolutely flawless game. And I think part of that may have just been, the awful weather, going into a new environment, and them being so much better than I think we were giving them credit for. I think they just kind of came out and hit us in the mouth, and we didn't know what to do. And you mentioned that their discipline and how well coached they are, how old they are. This is just this is going to be such an incredibly difficult game to win. And I'm afraid that so far in the Drinkwitz era, discipline is the thing that we do not have, and that we haven't had it. And maybe that changes this year, but we haven't looked cohesive. We haven't looked well coached. We have talent on the field that's not living up to the talent that we think it is. And until I see it, I'm not sure I believe it. And at least in a game like this, where it means so much, I'm really scared that we're not going to be able to pull it out.
That you said it though. Not having seen it yet and knowing what Kansas State is supposed to be, coming off a year where they did exactly what they're trying to do.
Just completely maximized everything that they had. Yeah, it's tough for me to make a bet against a good team when it's something I just haven't seen.
Well, I'm going to be watching them early in the season.
Oh, for sure, me too.
So much. Obviously, we'll have different things to say potentially when this game actually gets here, depending on how both teams look. And that's going to be a theme throughout this is we've probably already spent too much time talking about this Kansas State game but it is week 3.
It's so important.
Some of these other games, honestly, they're so much later in the season and there's so many unknowns that we're going to have to watch them play, 4 or 5 games to really know what's going on. But I think I have to pencil this one in as a loss until I see it, even thinking it's a loss, I see it being a very close game. And it's going to be one of those where Missouri will just do the dumbest thing you've ever seen, potentially, to lose this game when it was winnable. That's kind of how I see it going right now. It's neck and neck, but we're the ones that make the back-breaking mistake when Kansas State refuses to do that.
Yep.
Now, by the time the game gets here, maybe their new quarterback isn't everything they think he'll be, and maybe Missouri's offense has shown, no, you can trust us this year. We're going to actually put up points.
Yeah.
And then that's a different conversation. Yeah, but I think until we see that, I got to pencil it in as a loss.
Yeah, and Will Howard played well last year. And Adrian Martinez got hurt, and Will Howard kind of finished out the season for him. So he's a seasoned veteran. He's a senior. He's a good player. And, yep, I agree with you. I think in this moment, I got to say that's probably a loss if I'm being completely honest.
And that hurts so bad to do.
It does.
And people are going to be frustrated about that.
People are going to be mad, and that's fine. And I'm just trying to look at this through the most unbiased way possible. But and I totally understand the magnitude of this game, because I think just being on Twitter and kind of the fan base is going at it a little bit, and I want nothing more than to win this game.
Yeah. We'll see you in 3 weeks, and maybe I hope that we have a little something different to say than just repeating all that.
Yeah, and one other little quick note, not a spoiler alert for our next couple of games here, but if we can get past Kansas State somehow, it sets up for a potentially massive game against LSU a couple of games later.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on to Memphis. That game is being played in St. Louis. Super cool. Yeah. Love that. We'll do that as much as possible.
What's the old dome called now? It's not the Edward Jones anymore.
No.
Sorry, I'm putting you on the spot.
The Dome. It's just called the Dome at America Center, maybe.
Okay.
That's what it was for a while.
That is correct.
Thank you. The Dome at America Center. Very cool. Play Illinois there every season, please. That's what I say.
You about those regional rivalries?
I want them so bad.
Why not?
Last year, Memphis was 7-6, 3-5 in the American Athletic Conference. They have a good quarterback in Seth Harrigan. 47 touchdowns to 16 interceptions in his career.
Only a junior, right?
Yeah, I think so. They basically have to replace all of their wide receiver production from last year. And last year, and it's expected this year, they had a bit of a questionable offensive line, but really good running backs that kind of had to make something out of nothing a lot. Defensively, they have a pretty reliable pass rush last year, but they didn't have a reliable pass rush, but they made up for it with 22 turnovers forced. So that's going to be something to watch. We got to protect the ball. Last year, the quarterback had 3,500 yards on 64% completion, 22 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. So solid season last year.
Yeah, Memphis, the way they've played the last few years, they kind of have taken on the stereotype of kind of an explosive offense, maybe a little soft on defense. That's kind of how they were when they came to Columbia during the Drew Lock era. I think that was maybe 2018 or something like that. Very similar thing. They were explosive on offense. Didn't really matter because their defense was pretty bad, but they've kind of had some sneaky, great, good NFL players too the last few years.
Especially at running back.
Yeah, they've had some good players come through there, and I would kind of expect them to look similarly this year.
Big addition to them in the offseason, Towski Dove, former Missouri Tiger, now wide receiver for Memphis.
Yeah, it's a good fit for him.
You brought up a good point recently about some of these guys that have transferred out of the program, out of Missouri's program, to some of these group of 5 spots where they can be a starter right away. And you were mentioning on Discord that that's like a good thing to see in moderation from the football program. Yeah,
solid players who made their contributions at Missouri, but it's we've kind of moved on to a little bit more talent, and thank you for what you did, and go be a starter at just a step down. Yeah.
So definitely one of those situations here. Memphis defense, they did a really good job last year at not giving up big plays, but teams could kind of just methodically move down the field on them. And in conference play, they were able to hold some teams to field goals more. But I think Missouri should be okay and should be able to get in the end zone whenever they want, for the most part. They do have a really good edge rusher in Jalen Allen. He had 5 sacks last year, 11 total tackles for loss. But I do feel like this is a game where Missouri's passing game should be looking to stretch the field vertically and try to manufacture some big plays and not settle for, underneath stuff that's going to get blown up at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah. Wasn't this a game that was originally at Memphis?
Yeah. This was supposed to be the return of a home and home.
Yeah.
And
great idea.
Negotiated the
I love that
situation up to St. Louis.
So cool too. I mean, just a kind of a unique thing.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Memphis
I
is
agree
probably like, hey, we should have played both games in St. Louis.
Yeah, probably. They probably weren't too happy about that.
They probably got bought out of that.
Yeah,
home matchup.
Somebody was happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. Missouri's got to take advantage of it. Just another game to kind of tune up the offense and get ready for SEC play, and it's got to be a win.
Got to be a win. No, don't want to see any scary surprises here. If it's a game in the first half, no big deal. But honestly, I want to see a bigger win against Memphis than Middle Tennessee. I want to see some progress. Unless we just come out of the gates on fire on offense.
And I would assume that whoever the quarterback is going to be is probably playing the full game at this point.
Yeah. Going into SEC play, we got to have that figured out. So Missouri in the non-conference schedule, we have them 3-1, traveling to Vanderbilt. And this is the point where I wanted to mention this schedule construction is really fantastic. The first 5 games here, FCS opponent, group of 5 at home. Big rival, top 25 team at home, neutral site team that you're supposed to beat, and then you go on the road to a very winnable game at Vanderbilt. These first 5 games set up really nicely for Missouri to have a good start to the season.
I agree.
That's something that we haven't seen much in recent years.
We usually fumble that away somehow.
Yeah, and having that momentum into the middle of the season is going to be pretty big. So let's look at Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt 5-7 last year, 2-6 in the SEC. Quarterback Mike Wright has left to Mississippi State, but even before he left, they switched and gave the keys to the offense to AJ Swan. So he returns as a starter. He was a true freshman last year, I think. So not a whole lot of experience for him, but in his 7 starts last year, he completed 58% of his passes for 1,200 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. And he even got banged up a little bit. Later, Mike Wright had to come back in a little bit. It was kind of a weird situation there.
I'm kind of happy to see Mike Wright moving on to someone we're not going to play because he always seemed to have our number a little bit.
Seriously, it's like these dual threat quarterbacks, and like the best thing you can see from a Missouri standpoint is those guys leaving and like a statue pocket passer taking their place.
Exactly.
Star running back Ray Davis, he left to Kentucky, of all places, which is kind of bizarre to me considering Vanderbilt beat Kentucky last year.
Wow.
Weird. But I think I was listening to some SEC podcasts and stuff. They're kind of liking Vanderbilt to maybe take a step forward on offense with an improved offensive line, but they
can't get much worse.
That's true.
Actually, 5-7's like in bowl territory is probably like a pretty decent season for Vanderbilt.
Even more than that, 2 SEC wins. I mean,
Great job.
Spent a little while there just not winning conference games.
Yeah.
So I think they beat South Carolina in addition to
I don't remember,
Kentucky?
but it sounds like something South Carolina would do.
Yeah, they South Carolina destroyed Tennessee, but also lose to Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt had the 94th ranked defense last year, and they are replacing a lot of guys, so it's going to be a little bit of a question mark. If they replace the same caliber guys, Missouri's offense shouldn't really have a problem, but
gave us a little bit of a scare last year.
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those games where, and it's on the road, you got to pencil this in as a win.
Yeah,
but again, it's gonna so much of this season and our comfort in some of these winnable games is going to come down to how is the offense looking in these first 4.
Yeah, there's really not much to say about Vanderbilt just because we don't really know who they're going to be yet. They have so much to replace in key positions, but I think this might be a team that we have more to say about when it's time to play them, and we are going to be able to watch them this weekend. I think they have a game against Hawaii.
Yeah.
So we'll get a look at Vanderbilt very quickly.
Remember last year they destroyed Hawaii, and I was like, watch out for Vanderbilt.
Oh yeah, you were on board the train after that game. You were picking them like every week.
I'm telling you, though,
Alabama.
Yeah, I did that. I'm telling you though, 2 wins in the SEC. That's a lot better than 0, which is where they were at for a little while.
It is. You can't deny that.
So we're putting ourselves down for a win.
Have you seen the stuff about Vanderbilt's like stadium renovations and stuff?
Yeah,
like how it's just like the one side is just like gone
and
it's
not going to be ready for the start of the season.
Yeah,
they're literally going to be playing in a high school stadium. I'm pretty sure.
I don't know much about it, but I've seen people just making fun of it online a little bit because it's just not ready. It's not progressing, and it's just it's their stadium probably seats like 25,000 right now.
Yikes!
It's like a high school in Texas.
I think they actually are going to have to play not at their home stadium, like in the first week maybe.
Really?
Which
are they going to Hawaii?
I think they went to Hawaii last year. You'd think we would know this. Well,
you'd think they would just go to Hawaii both times.
Well, I don't think you're supposed to be traveling to Hawaii right now.
That's true.
So
they can't play either place. You have to play in the Dome at St. Louis.
Maybe so. All right, we're putting ourselves down for a win, and it's going to feel real silly how much we're laughing right now if Missouri loses to Vanderbilt.
I'm pretty sure there was a couple years ago where we were playing Vanderbilt, and we preview the team, of course, every week when we're about to play them on the podcast, and we were like, hey, we're going to beat Vanderbilt. We don't even need to preview it. Like, we barely spoke about the game, and then we lost. But you know what? That was
cool.
That was different. That was a different era.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up.
Vanderbilt.
We respect Vanderbilt now.
Absolutely. We'll respect them a lot more when it's the end of September.
And they beat Hawaii.
Yep. All right. So now Missouri is 4-1 and hosting potentially a top 5 team. They're number 5 in the preseason polls. The LSU Tigers come to town. Last time that happened, Missouri won in dramatic fashion. LSU was coming off national championship, one of the best teams ever, and Ed Orgeron was done coaching. And so Missouri played LSU at the right time.
He was ready for something else.
He was ready to move on. We didn't know it quite yet, but then, losing to Missouri, people kind of started to clue in.
It's a good way to find your way out.
Yeah. So let's say 4-1, lost a close heartbreaker to Kansas State. We're probably not ranked. Maybe we're receiving votes, but probably not even. So that takes a little bit of the shine off this LSU game now. Undefeated going to the LSU, knocked off top 25 team.
Then they definitely are going to squeeze us into that 25 spot so they can have 2 ranked teams play each other.
Absolutely. Let me tell you a little bit about LSU. Let me catch up on my notes here. LSU last year 10-4, 6-3 in the SEC. This will be second year for head coach Brian Kelly. 4 starters back on the offensive line, and they also return Jayden Daniels. If you've not heard of him, he had right around 4,000 total yards last year. If you don't include sacks, he had over 1,000 rushing yards. If you include sacks, he had 885 rushing yards. 28 total touchdowns and only 3 interceptions.
Yeah, he transferred from Arizona State.
Yeah.
Was like a good transfer prospect.
Yeah.
And then was just elite at LSU. He's a legitimate Heisman hopeful this year, kind of a dual threat guy. He's just going to make it difficult in every play, everything he does.
Yeah.
And probably should have been a Missouri Tiger.
Probably. Yeah. If he was a Missouri Tiger, we would not be having the quarterback competition / controversy that we've been having. So they do also have 2 probably future NFL pass catchers in wide receiver Malik Neighbors and tight end Mason Taylor. 2 really good receivers there. I think their offense is going to be very good. I think. Watch out.
That's going to be maybe a little bit of a heavyweight battle, assuming Missouri's defense is as good as we think they can be.
Yeah.
Man, imagine
top 20 offense versus top 20 defense.
Imagine this game, man. 2 undefeated teams, maybe.
Put us in that nighttime slot.
Ooh, yeah. This could be a really fun game,
and we'll be there.
We will be there.
I'll have to double check that we're officially locked into that, and that tickets have been secured. But
because it sounds like it's pretty high demand, like tickets are going for that.
So we will be there, and we will try to organize something tailgate type of thing for that. So. If you're into that sort of thing, maybe you want to try to make that trip to Columbia. Looking at LSU's defense, the common theme the rest of the schedule is the SEC is just poaching some of the best defenders. If you've got a hole, just go get one of the best players from another conference to fill it. They picked up pass rushers from Texas, Oregon, and Arizona in the portal. They have one of the best linebackers in the country in Harold Perkins, and they brought in a bunch of big-time transfers in the secondary as well.
I saw Mekhi Wingo was like second team preseason All SEC or whatever, and I shed a little tear.
Yeah, I literally have a frowny face next to his name on my notes.
Yeah, that's now two players that play for LSU that should probably be Missouri Tigers.
And the anchor on the defensive line is Mason Smith. He's very good. Yeah, Wingo there as well. Yikes. LSU's going to be good, I think. I want so much for Brian Kelly to just flame out at LSU and it just to not work, but unfortunately it seems like that's not going to happen.
What is Brian Kelly doing that he's just the best coach, apparently, everywhere he goes? Like,
he's not winning a national championship.
That's true.
That's the only thing he hasn't done yet.
He's not likable. Like,
everybody wins a national championship at LSU, though, right?
Everybody?
I mean,
even Les Miles?
He did.
He did. 07.
Nick Saban won one there. Ed Orgeron won one there. So it's only a matter of time, I'm afraid.
Ed Orgeron won a title.
One of the best teams ever, 15-0.
Is Ed Orgeron really like a good coach? I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine him like coaching anything.
He's great in the living room.
Probably.
Yeah. One thing about LSU, we will know a lot more. They will have already traveled to Mississippi State and Ole Miss by the time this game rolls around. And I was looking at LSU's road games last year. They played at Auburn, at Florida, at Arkansas, and at Texas A&M. They won 3 of those, but they only beat Auburn by 4, only beat Florida by 10, and only beat Arkansas by 3. That game at Arkansas, 13-10, and then they lost at A&M, 38-23.
They did beat Alabama, but that was a home game?
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, getting this game at home after they've already had 2 road games in Mississippi.
Yeah.
If Missouri's undefeated, the atmosphere is electric. It's going to be loud no matter what.
Yeah,
I have confidence there.
I definitely don't think this LSU team is unbeatable by any stretch.
They're a hot pick to win the West.
Yeah. I think it's this is a hot take. I think it's possible Jayden Daniels is not as good as he was last year.
That's possible.
I think he was just so efficient. It was just kind of like a magical season last year.
We could have seen his ceiling, basically.
I think we could have. Yeah. And even if we did, that'll still be great.
Right.
Because they have talent everywhere. And apparently Brian Kelly is just an excellent coach, which angers me. But this could be a really, really memorable night if Missouri, even if Missouri plays well, even if they take him to the end, it could be a very memorable game.
Give me a shootout, I say. Give me some offense flying around the field, some unpredictable plays, some turnovers on either side. I just want to see a big play game. I want to see Missouri show up for a marquee matchup and show that they can be competitive.
Yep.
And that's a defeatist mindset. But I am going to pencil this in as a loss at this point. For this to be flipped to a Missouri win, it was going to have to be, I think, a low-scoring game where LSU's offense is not quite what we think they could be, and where Missouri's offense is every bit of what they could be.
Yeah.
Then we travel to Kentucky for their homecoming game. They scheduled Missouri for homecoming, and Kentucky last year, 7-6 on the season, 3-5 in SEC play. Obviously, Will Levis was pretty banged up from time to time. They had really bad offensive line play. Those two things kind of go hand in hand there. But they bring in Devin Leary, who feels like 5 years ago, Missouri was in the conversation to land him in the transfer portal as well.
Yeah.
And
it's tough. I can't believe that was this past offseason that
weird,
we were in the running for Devin Leary. That just seems like an old name, but it was only probably 6-ish months ago.
So he just walks in and is definitely the starter there. He was pretty fantastic at NC State. He's their career leader in touchdown passes, surpassing one Phillip Rivers.
Wow.
Yeah, 6,800 yards, 62 touchdowns, and only 6 interceptions in 30 games for NC State.
Yeah, this was just like the perfect addition for Kentucky. Like I was kind of, as last year was kind of unfolding, and Will Levis was not as good as he was his junior season, and the offensive line was terrible, and it was kind of like looked like an end of an era a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
This was maybe like the one thing that maybe kickstarted that back. Like, whoop, not yet.
Yeah,
and we're back.
Well, and this seems to be the game plan now. It's like, all right, if we don't have a guy ready to go, then again, if we got a hole, we're just going to grab one of the best players at that position from another conference.
Yeah, and honestly, I feel like Devin Leary could have gone to an even better place than Kentucky. He's just a really solid college quarterback.
Well, there's an argument to be made that he looked at what they were selling and sort of the team they can put around him and was pretty into it because they did bring in some transfers on the O-line to help shore things up. They bring in Ray Davis from Vanderbilt. Just a wild thing to beat a team and then transfer there.
Can beat them and then join them.
I guess. They bring all of their top 5 receivers back from last year.
They have elite wide receivers, which
they were
is not
young last year.
And not something Kentucky can say very often.
Yeah. And these guys were pretty young but still produced last year, and now they're all back.
And they brought their OC back.
Right. Liam Cohen is back,
That's
folks.
maybe the scariest part of the whole thing. Dude's a great offensive mind, and he, I think, was kind of what was powering their success 2 seasons ago when Will Levis looked like he was about to be the number 1 pick in the draft.
Yeah,
and then he takes a job. He's the offensive coordinator for the Rams last year, the defending national champions,
world champions even.
Well, world champions, and somehow he just is back at Kentucky.
Yeah,
that's a little frustrating, actually.
Yeah, that definitely sucks. Just spent 1 year with as OC at the Rams. And they bring in one of the best Northern Illinois. They're FCS, or are they like a MAC team?
I think they are MAC.
Okay. Northern Illinois transfer offensive tackle Marquez Cox. I think he's going to step in. He's being talked about as one of the best offensive linemen in the SEC, having not played a snap yet in the conference.
They need that.
Yeah. I think this is going to be a very stressful game for Mizzou fans.
It's going to be ugly.
It feels like one of those games where I'm going to be watching this, and when Mizzou's on defense, I'm going to have this feeling inside me that every Kentucky play is going to go for a touchdown. Like that, I don't know why. Sometimes teams do that to me where I'm like just on the edge of my seat thinking the worst thing is going to happen at every moment. And then it's just a huge relief when we just, don't let them score a touchdown.
I get that feeling whenever the opposing team's quarterback is like, lets go of the ball.
Yeah.
I'm just like, well, there's a touchdown. Like there's a big completion.
Right.
Like, and the ball's like in the air.
I feel like that's going to be me every snap of this Kentucky game.
Okay. All right.
The only thing that's going to make a difference is if their O-line is bad again.
I think it will be.
Okay.
I mean, it may be improved, but it was horrible last year.
And it gave Missouri every chance to win that game solely because...
Don't even get me started on last year.
Missouri was able to... get in there.
Yeah, I mean, Missouri's basically cursed whenever they play Kentucky. Like, we just cannot figure them out for some reason.
Kentucky will be coming off a road matchup against Georgia, so maybe they'll be a little beat up, and maybe they'll have their spirits...
Wow, you're hoping for injuries?
Destroyed. No, I didn't say hoping. I say, that's the type of thing that happens sometimes.
You just get sore when you play good teams.
Exactly. They're going to be, fighting their hardest against Georgia on the road, and... they're going to want to take the night off against Mizzou, even though it's homecoming. Never mind. Anyway, bad O-line. Missouri got a chance here. They got it. So, what are you thinking?
Yeah, this is just a 50-50 flip for me.
Is Kentucky the Kansas State of the SEC?
Yeah, it basically. I mean, just in the way that this is kind of a must-win game, or just the fact that they're kind of like well coached and just like hard-nosed team.
Both.
Yeah, I could see that a little bit. They do seem to be, at least the last few years, they've definitely kind of been that hard-nosed, well-coached team. But man, if Missouri's gonna get to where they want to go this year, this just has to be a game that they win. And I agree with you. It's kind of tough to see a win here. And I'm afraid if I say a loss here, I'm not sure where that puts me and my predictions for the rest. Like, I don't know where that. I mean, We might be capping out at 7 wins if I say this is a loss.
That would be loss number 3 if you pencil that one in as a loss.
Oh man. Okay. I think Missouri's going to exercise some demons then. I think they're going to figure it out. This is the year.
That moment. Okay. Okay,
it's a win, actually. I told myself a little story. I think it's a win. They're going to figure it out this year. They've got the horses to do it. They're going to ruin homecoming for Kentucky.
I'll be the bad guy.
All right, that's fine.
I'll put that down as a loss for Missouri.
Wow. Dude, are you even a Mizzou fan?
Apparently not.
Wow.
Apparently not. They might lose a game or two this year. I've got them down for their 3rd loss of the season there.
Lord.
You've got them bouncing back after losing at home to LSU. I've got a 2-game losing streak there, but then we get South Carolina at home. Missouri made easy work of South Carolina on the road last year. One of the most fun games on Missouri's schedule last year. South Carolina did finish the season 8-5, 4-4 in SEC play. They beat Tennessee and Clemson. Basically knocked both Tennessee and Clemson out of the college football playoff in back-to-back weeks. And lost to Vanderbilt earlier in the season.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we
got destroyed by Mizzou.
We definitely talked about South Carolina last year, even before the season started, about one of the most volatile teams in the SEC, if not the country. They just have that kind of unravel factor where it's like if something goes wrong, they're not going to bounce back. They've got a lot of talent. They've got Spencer Rattler, who's a former 5-star quarterback. He's very talented. And South Carolina fans are very confident about this season.
I would say too confident.
We've kind of made some friends with some of the South Carolina media guys, and so I follow some of those guys on Twitter, and just kind of feeling out the sentiment from South Carolina. They are confident, and they've got the talent to be there. Let's see. I wrote how much they return, if I can find it. How much production they return. They return 55% of their total production from last year. So I don't know. That's not terribly bullish, honestly, in my mind. That's probably in the triple digits as far as ranking goes. Yeah. So, but they do return probably their most important piece in Rattler. So, and when you've got him, anything can happen. I don't think I would not predict South Carolina to win 8 games this season, but they could beat anybody. And that's just how it's going to be, I think.
Yeah. Well, that was their story last year, basically. Rattler returns 3,000-yard passer last year, only 18 touchdowns to 12 interceptions. Hope that continues. Basically, all of their running backs transferred, but they do bring back wide receiver Antwain Wells, who caught 68 passes for 928 yards and 6 touchdowns. So they've got to really be hoping that connection there continues and improves even. But
it does feel like South Carolina always just has some stud wide receiver. I can't believe we're having 2 Deebo Samuel mentions in the same episode. But
I know you love him.
Shi Smith and Pharaoh Cooper. They just have these random, just really one really good wide receiver.
Mm-hmm. But between Rattlers throwing 12 interceptions and also being sacked 31 times last year, and some of those are on him because he holds onto the ball too long, runs into sacks. But the offensive line wasn't great either. I don't know. I don't get the optimism, honestly. I don't know if the stuff coming out of camp is Rattler has elevated his game significantly or something, but
I think that's what you hear about any football team ever, really.
I guess so. Especially returning starting quarterback.
Best shape of his life.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, I think maybe this is almost a little bit of bias in the other way. I'm maybe more scared of Kansas State than I realistically should be. I might be a little bit too confident here just based on how this game has gone the last few years against South Carolina, but I guess I'll just kind of use that same mantra. Until I see it, I don't think Missouri loses this game.
I'm with you. I'm too confident. Mark it down as a win. Easy. Defense last year for South Carolina wasn't anything special, and they lost 4 of their top 5 linebackers from last year. They're having to reload at some important positions. I like Missouri's offense at home to move the ball pretty well and get the win there. And we're going to need it because then we travel to number 1, Georgia, who we're not going to talk about Georgia very long because what's there to say? One of the best teams ever last year. national champions back-to-back years, undefeated
they won
last
the
year.
national championship game by like literally 8 touchdowns.
And that semifinal game against Ohio State, all-timer.
That was like the game of the year.
Yeah. But yeah, undefeated season, national champions, Heisman finalists. They did everything. However, they lose OC Todd Monken to Baltimore Ravens. Guess who's their new offensive coordinator? You're going to love this.
I think I actually might know this.
Go for it.
But I can't remember.
Mike Bobo.
Mike Bobo. I knew it. I was too afraid to say it.
One of our favorite characters here.
Mike Obo.
Yeah. Mike Bobo is the offensive coordinator.
How did he get that job?
I guess
he's incredible.
He has a history with them, I believe. Yeah. But the fans are thinking nothing changes. We're still running Todd Monken's system. Mike Bobo, just keep it rolling.
Yeah.
Okay, don't try to change anything.
Yeah.
Stetson Bennett is gone. They bring in quarterback Carson Beck, who's been in the program a while. And he has the benefit of having, all the best players in the country ever from all the best recruiting classes ever around him, including Heisman contender Brock Bowers at tight end.
And Dominic Lovett.
Oh, and Dominic Lovett. And their defense is going to be incredible. Missouri's probably going to lose this game. You got that as a loss?
Yeah. It will be interesting just to see if they can keep it up at all.
Who knows?
They got to replace some pretty big on both sides of the ball. They have to replace some huge contributors, but recruiting doesn't always transfer over, but it usually does.
Sometimes there is like a year gap where it's like we
catch up a little bit.
These incredible recruits, we're veterans and we went on this incredible run. That's going to happen again, but there's going to be 1 year or two in between.
Yeah. You still have to have a competent quarterback to win a national championship usually. So, I don't know. It could be a little bit interesting of a year for Georgia, but this is still a loss for sure.
Okay, 3 games left on the schedule. I have Missouri at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 4. Oh, is that right?
I got them at 6 and 3.
Yikes. Okay, I've got them going on a run here. So we come back home and play right now, ranked number 12, Tennessee Volunteers. Now, Tennessee, 11-2 last year, dream season, should have beat South Carolina and gone to the college football playoff, but they got destroyed by South Carolina. Just completely laid an egg. Josh Heupel is their head coach. You've heard of him. Best offense in college football last year. They do lose their offensive coordinator. He's now the head coach at UCF. They promoted their quarterback coach to OC, but this is Josh Heupel's system. It all runs through him, so it doesn't matter a whole lot who the offensive coordinator is. They lose Hendon Hooker. They lose their top 2 wide receivers, but they bring in Joe Milton. They reload with plenty of talent at wide receiver. Most of what was already a pretty solid offensive line returns. Running backs Jalen Wright and Jabari Small also return. But this all hinges on, can Joe Milton be as efficient as Hendon Hooker was last year? Because we've seen Josh Heupel offenses with quarterbacks with big arms, Drew Lock, who perhaps weren't as efficient as they needed to be. And, there were times even in some of those high-powered Drew Lock, Josh Heupel offenses where if they weren't scoring touchdowns, they were off the field in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And so...
good way to wear down a defense.
Was Hendon Hooker the guy that was making that happen, being able to extend plays with his legs and just being incredibly efficient? And if you plug in Joe Milton, who is an excellent athlete and a cannon of an arm, but can he be as efficient? Yeah,
Milton is kind of a little bit different from Hooker as a prospect. As from like an NFL perspective, he's way more athletic. Mm-hmm. He's maybe almost more kind of like an Anthony Richardson build, probably maybe a better arm, honestly, a little bit better thrower, probably not as athletic.
Yeah, but Anthony Richardson light almost.
Maybe, but he's a lot more athletic than Hendon Hooker was. But I think it's possible that we're looking at him as a pro prospect after the season as a guy who maybe wasn't a super great college player, but just has the potential to be great, and so he's drafted highly. But here's a hot take, man. I think Tennessee takes a step back this year, and I think they finish the season outside of the top 25.
Let's go.
I think it's time for Josh Heupel's Mickey Mouse gimmicky offense to finally just go off the road into a ditch on the side of the road. And I think Missouri's going to win this game.
I'm with you. Let's go. Missouri win this game. Joe Milton, he doesn't have, I'm predicting, he does not have this like sixth sense that Hendon Hooker had where he could just get himself out of a bad spot and turn it into a big play.
It's going to be super raw.
That's not something that every quarterback just naturally has the ability to do. Like we just talked about Spencer Rattler. He's a guy that has all the physical ability to play the quarterback position, but puts himself in, he makes bad spots worse by running into a sack, throwing the ball into an interception. And Hendon Hooker did the opposite of that almost every single game.
Yeah, Hooker is very smart.
Always making the right play.
Yeah.
Even when things started to get, even when things would break down a little bit.
Yeah, they also lost Cedric Tillman and Jalen Hyatt, who are two like all SEC wide receivers who are both on NFL teams now. I think they're really gonna take a little step back. You know, have we seen a Josh Heupel offense without like NFL talent? I mean, the dude has been really fortunate.
Yeah,
everywhere he's gone, he's gotten to play with some really, really good college players,
especially at quarterback. Yeah,
yeah.
Watch out for slot wide receiver Squirrel White.
Is he a starter? Or like will he play?
I think he will, yeah.
Or okay. I didn't know if he was just like all name team or
definitely that. But I think he will contribute.
Okay. I can't wait.
He's not at the top of their wide receiver list, but he'll be on the field. Let's see. Defensive.
I've got him at 7-3 now.
Missouri
after that win, yeah. Missouri.
The Missouri offense is going to have to show up though. Because
Tennessee
will still score.
Yeah.
But we need them to just not be as efficient as they can be.
They could take a huge step back, and that will still be a tough game.
Yeah. All right, I have what you got them where?
7-3.
7-3. So I've got them at 6-4,
with maybe a little bit of a generous pick against Kentucky.
Sure. Well, I've been pretty pessimistic. I have them losing the games they're supposed to lose until this Tennessee game on paper, as of right now.
Yeah. Subject to change.
Yes, exactly. Then we go back home, or we stay home and play Florida. And this, my friends, is what you call an opportunity, I think. Florida, last year, 6-7 on the season, 3-5 in SEC play. A pretty crazy up and down season in the first year for Billy Napier there. And a lot of that was because of who his quarterback was. Anthony Richardson could make the unbelievable play from time to time, but then also be a detriment to the offense at times. Like they seemingly struggled to like get his skills to just be consistent throughout the course of the offense. And he would make big plays, but then also derail drives for them. So I think they're going to look to be more balanced, more stable on offense. And new quarterback transfer Graham Mertz from Wisconsin. Not impressed by his numbers, really.
I think is he a Kansas City guy?
I can't remember.
I very familiar name from recruiting way back in the day. I think he is kind of a local guy who went to Wisconsin
I'll try
first.
To look that up.
But yeah, I mean, Florida's going to have to. I mean, they have a little bit of a reset here, and they're returning 55%, 54% of their production from last year from a team that was pretty suspect.
You're exactly right, though. Blue Valley North, Mission, Kansas.
Yeah, always kind of seemed like he's kind of a pocket passer, pro style guy, and honestly, I think that bodes a little bit better than playing against a mobile quarterback.
Yeah, in his career at Wisconsin, only completed 59% of his passes, 5,400 yards, 38 touchdowns, 26 interceptions.
Yeah, it doesn't really scare you, and never really hasn't lived up to the recruiting hype yet.
I think they're going to try to run the ball, but he's not mobile, so they're going to be relying on two really, really good running backs, though, Montrell Johnson and Trevor Etienne.
Wisconsin's a tough place to be a quarterback, though.
I think so.
Like, it's going to be more fun to play quarterback for Florida than Wisconsin, I would think.
Typically, yes. This year, I don't know. I think Florida might struggle a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think part of this like narrative in my head around Florida is Billy Napier. I think he feels secure in getting another year if he needs it. So I think they're not going to be that good. defense was really bad last year. I think they're bad again.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Missouri win at home.
I think I'm going to go win as well. All right, now I'm getting a little scared. I've got them 8-3.
And I've got them 7-4, traveling to Arkansas. Arkansas last year, this is the last game of the season. Arkansas 7-6, 3-5 in SEC play. They lose their offensive coordinator and their defensive coordinator. They bring in Dan Enos, the OC from Maryland.
Little reunion.
Yeah. But all you need to know about Arkansas is they bring back KJ Jefferson and Raheem Sanders. That's all they kind of needed to win 7 games last year on offense. Their defense was a little suspect from time to time. And I don't know, they don't scare me too much. I mean, they got some impact transfers, including from Missouri, Trajan Jeffcoat.
Yeah.
What does Missouri's defense look like if he's on the end this year?
Slight bump.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think KJ Jefferson and Raheem Rocket Sanders for sure. They kind of give you a high floor for sure. They're both really talented, explosive players. They're fun to watch. They haven't really played well against Missouri. Actually, I almost feel like KJ Jefferson's best game against Missouri was like his first game a few years ago. Whenever somebody was hurt and he had to play and played well. But yeah, man, playing at Arkansas makes this maybe a little bit more scary. But I think it's going to be a close game. But Missouri just always wins. They always beat Arkansas. They always pull it out.
That won't come back to haunt you at all. No, I like Missouri here too.
Yeah. I hate to say it, but I mean, it's not going to be easy.
No, definitely not easy. And I think KJ Jefferson is the type of quarterback you do not want to play against for a defense because he can turn something out of nothing. He's always poised, always composed.
So difficult to bring down.
Yes.
Like you're just watching the D-line just surround him. They have their hands on him and just he gets out of it.
Yep.
So frustrating to play against.
Yep. He's very savvy, picking up a first down with his legs when he needs to. And with Sanders in the backfield, that 1-2 punch is going to be hard to contain.
Sanders is like a tank of a running back as well. Like both of those guys are just
hard to tackle.
Are crazy, yeah.
Their defense, though, last year, last in the SEC in yards allowed per game, and they gave up over 30 points per game.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely going to be the way that Missouri's going to have to exploit them. They did that last year, even with an offense that was as bad as Missouri's was. They looked pretty good against Arkansas. So that's going to have to be the key again, and let's just hope that whoever their new defensive coordinator is doesn't get things together for him. I don't even know who the defensive coordinator is. Did you say who it was?
No.
I literally don't even know.
I forgot. It's not Barry Odom anymore.
Not Barry Odom.
Give me a win for Missouri.
Yeah.
Pencil it in as a win until it's not, I say.
I agree with you. And now I've got them 9-3.
9-3, and I'm at 8-4, so get off my back. I was a little worried. The listeners were mad at me there for a while, but
get off his back.
I got him to 8 wins,
his hypothetical
guys.
back.
I'm feeling the heat when I had him starting 5-4 or whatever it was. But I've got 3 wins here to end the season. I've got him at 8-4. You've got 9-3. We got to have.
That would be special.
Yeah. 9-3. That's tasty.
What's the floor? What's the ceiling?
Looking through this, I mean, there is an outside chance that Missouri goes 6-6 yet again. And I want to set that as the floor because I feel like that's the worst thing that can happen. And yes, Coach Drinkwitz return for another season.
Yeah, just kind of in that ambiguous, like, what are we doing?
But
stage.
Another top 30 recruiting class with
assuming
potentially 2 5-star guys.
Assuming they hang on if Missouri's not playing super well.
Yeah, but I
really hope we're not in that position, man.
I really do feel like 6-6 is the floor. Earlier in this offseason, I think I said 5 wins was the floor, but I feel like it's 6, and I feel like 7 should be an okay season. Improving by 1 game is not the end of the world, although I think everybody would be pretty disappointed in only 7 wins. So I'm talking myself further and further to 8 wins being almost expected. And the vibe I'm getting from Mizzou fans and media that are a little bit more tuned into Mizzou this year, plenty of people are picking them around the 8-win mark. And it feels like I haven't seen anybody saying 5 wins, right?
No.
Everybody's on 6, 7, or 8, I feel like.
If we just had a more secure quarterback whose name people knew, I think that we would probably be even a little bit more popular. But do you know what the Vegas over-under is?
I don't know.
Their win total?
I don't know.
They're usually pretty good guessers. They probably, like 6.5, I would guess, or something like that.
That sounds about right. 6.5.
I don't remember what I was going to say.
6.5, so 7 would be beating Vegas, 7 wins. But I feel like the general feeling I get is that 8 wins is where we want to be.
For sure. Yeah, 8 wins. We're 100% out of feeling like that ambiguous stage where we've made progress.
Turn the corner.
There's no hot seat conversation whatsoever. We're most likely hanging on to our 5 stars
Let's
recruits.
See it. Oh, yeah.
And all would be great. And hopefully we're riding off into the sunset with maybe even Sam Horn leading us there.
Right.
That's like best case scenario.
Yes. And you talked about quarterback position. If Missouri's sketchy quarterback play was not the thing that has been pointed to the last couple seasons as one of the main issues, then I think everybody's talking about them winning 8 games. It's because it's such a vital position that is still a bit of a question mark. And all we can do is hope that both quarterbacks, Horn and Cook, have taken at least some kind of step forward to the point where they're competing with each other and that it's not just a repeat of last year.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one interesting thing that I've read consistently this offseason from some of the interviews that I've read from some of the transfers coming in is across the board, they have talked about the mindset that the current Missouri players have, kind of the players that have already been here. They seem really locked in. They know exactly what they need to do on a day-to-day basis. They care about their workouts. Whatever. They're saying the things that make me think that discipline that we haven't seen could be there. And if it is there, then I think 8 wins is a lock.
Yeah. No, I agree with you there. And yeah, everything we're hearing out of camps and stuff is pointing at exactly that. I circled 4 games: Kansas State, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Arkansas. Those 4, I think, are the ones we're going to be talking about at the end of the season as, wow, we did it. We won 3 of those games. Or, nope, we're not quite there yet because we lost 3 of those games.
It is a little scary that may honestly just be what it comes down to, is you've got 3 or 4 games that are just total toss-ups, and you have to win. You have to win the majority of them to have a special season. And you kind of saw it last year where Missouri very easily could have been an 8-win team.
Literal bounces away from 8 wins.
Yep. So the margin for error is so incredibly small.
I'm so excited, though. Let's get it going.
We're so close.
Oh, it just feels like they're right there taking the step to 8, 9 wins.
Could be a fun one.
1 week from right now. It starts. That's it, I guess. Let us know what you think. Too pessimistic, too optimistic? I feel like we're right on the mark there. 8, 9 wins. That's the zone.
Public apology to John Wolfert. Is that his name?
Oh my God.
Did I mess it up again?
Yeah, you doing a bit? Jeff Wolfert.
Oh, sorry.
All right. Let's close it out here. Special thank you to our Patreon supporters at the $10 level and above: Britt Treese, Brian Smith, Ryan D. Moore, Tristan, Ben Smith, Parker, Daddy JD, Tim Keens, Tyler Harsel, Brandon Garofalo, Brandon Hanks, Matthew Tilley, and Luis Hernandez. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. We love you very much. You can find this podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We're on Twitter at Mizzou Sports Pod, and you can email us at MissouriSportsPod@gmail.com.
You can find our t-shirts and stickers on our online shop, MissouriSportsPod.BigCartel.com.
Thank you everyone for listening. We'll see you in just a few days. Games on Thursday.